Beneath the thin veil we call reality, something ancient stirs. Something not born of matter or bound by time, but humming with the cadence of cosmic memory. We live our days tethered to clocks, to wires, to promises of progress wrapped in glowing screens. And yet, in the quietest corners of our minds, in the silence between thoughts, there is a flicker, a sense that all of this isn't all there is, that something else lies underneath, something hidden, something profound. Have you ever felt that a moment was more than a moment? That meeting someone, catching a glance, or hearing a whisper in a dream had the weight of destiny woven into it? That life was gently nudging you, not forward, but inward? If so, you've already brushed against the invisible lattice we're about to explore. This is not a tale of science alone, nor of mysticism for mysticism's sake. This is a revealing, a peeling back of the curtain. What if the soul itself, your soul, is entangled in ways you were never told? What if your very being is encrypted into a cosmic code science has only just begun to stumble upon? Welcome to the quantum entanglement of the soul. What science doesn't want you to know. Now, before your thoughts leap to conspiracy or fiction, pause, breathe. Because this isn't about mistrust of science. Science is a language, a lens. But lenses can distort as well as clarify, and some truths, when too radiant, can blind rather than illuminate. There are things science chooses not to study because it has no tools for them. Things like consciousness, like love, like the instant sense of connection when you lock eyes with someone across a crowded room and feel you've known them for lifetimes. Things like déjà vu, precognition, telepathic bonds, or the way grief travels across continents the moment someone passes. They are phenomena not easily reduced to formulas, and yet they persist. They persist because they are real. Quantum physics has scratched at the edge of this hidden structure with trembling fingers. The famed concept of quantum entanglement, the idea that two particles once linked remain mysteriously connected across space and time, is not just a principle of subatomic behavior. It is a mirror, a metaphor, or perhaps it is much more than that. Perhaps it is the blueprint for the soul. Consider this. What if every connection you've ever felt, every heartbreak, every synchronicity, every overwhelming wave of love or inexplicable sense of loss is evidence that souls too become entangled? Not symbolically, but literally. Bound in a field beyond the speed of light, beyond the rules of three-dimensional existence. A field not limited by brain waves, but one orchestrated by intention, resonance, and memory beyond this life. When two particles become entangled, their states are linked in such a way that one cannot be fully described without the other, no matter how far they are separated. What if souls, those luminous, timeless centers of self, operate under a similar law? What if your thoughts ripple through an unseen lattice, stirring the souls of those you're cosmically bound to, whether they dwell across oceans, timelines, or even realms? This is where the illusion of separation begins to fray. It begs the question, are we truly individuals? Or are we merely points of perception in a grand tapestry, connected at the deepest level through a quantum consciousness that underlies all form? Ask yourself, what if you are not who you think you are, but something more expansive, more infinite? What if you are a node in the fabric of the universe? A chosen one, quietly awakened to glimpse the unseen code of existence? Tell me, have you ever felt a moment so deeply connected, so perfectly orchestrated, that it couldn't have been random? A passing encounter, a recurring dream, or the same symbol appearing again and again as if the universe were whispering something only you could understand? Here's where I want you to pause and reflect, and leave a comment down below, not just for me, but for you and the universe. What was a moment in your life that felt undeniably fated? Something that science alone could never explain. This channel is not just a place to observe, it is a portal. A community for the seekers, the in-betweeners, the ones who've always felt like reality had more layers than anyone around them was willing to admit. By subscribing, you're not just clicking a button, you're answering a call. The call to remember, to awaken, to step beyond the ordinary into the extraordinary architecture that surrounds and includes you. Because this series, this exploration, is not entertainment, it is a decoding, a remembering of what you already know but forgot. And now that we've opened the door, the deeper currents are beginning to flow. When we peel back the tapestry of existence thread by thread, we find not chaos but something staggeringly intricate, a web of purpose, delicate and deliberate. At the heart of this exploration lies the understanding that reality is not solid. It is not fixed. It is not what we've been told by textbooks or tethered by lab reports. Rather, it is fluid, sculpted by perception, entwined with thought, and built not on atoms alone, but on awareness itself. And here we meet the first thread of this hidden algorithm: consciousness as the architect. While classical science has long dismissed the mind as merely a byproduct of brain chemistry, quantum studies have begun to hint at a truth far more profound. Experiments like the double-slit test, where particles behave differently when observed, suggest that the act of awareness is not a passive process but a participatory force. The observer is not separate from the observed. This is not philosophy cloaked in poetic mysticism. This is empirical. The mind bends the particle. Thought influences trajectory. What then does this say about your soul? If perception shapes matter at the smallest scale, could intention shape reality at the grandest? This is not about manifesting dream cars or lofty ideals of wishful thinking. It's about understanding that your consciousness is not just riding reality like a wave, it is helping generate it. You are not a passenger, you are a programmer, but you are not programming alone. Here we arrive at the second principle: entanglement is spiritual resonance. Just as two quantum particles can mirror one another's state regardless of distance, souls too, once bound, seem to echo each other's essence across dimensions. How else do we explain the mysterious intuitive experiences that defy space and logic? The sudden feeling of joy or sorrow when someone you love far away experiences something life-changing. The call you make at the exact moment a friend needs you most. The way certain relationships feel like ancient echoes rippling back through time. Entanglement may not simply be a physical phenomenon, it may be the soul's memory. A memory of unity before separation, a field of oneness beneath the illusion of multiplicity. And in that field, your soul is tethered not by gravity or blood, but by frequency, by resonance, by the sacred alignment of vibrations that once intertwined and may again. Now picture this. Reality is not built on bricks and steel, but on vibrational codes. Everything from a heartbeat to a cathedral, from the laughter of a child to the orbit of planets, hums with frequency. When these frequencies align, phenomena happen. Unexpected synchronicities, creative breakthroughs, soul encounters. When they clash, we feel chaos, dissonance, the ache of misalignment. So imagine your soul not as a ghostly concept, but as a field of light and vibration. A unique harmonic signature that resonates through space and time, forever seeking its matching tones. And what you call love, fate, or destiny may simply be the dance of compatible frequencies finding each other across the orchestra of the universe. Yet we have been trained to believe we are separate, that the soul, if it exists at all, is locked away behind the ribcage, isolated like an island. But what if you are not an island? What if you are a node in the divine network, sending and receiving data across realms too subtle for the eyes to see? What if your intuitions, dreams, and sudden flashes of knowing are not anomalies, but messages? A universal download, an upgrade waiting to be acknowledged. The next theme emerges from this realization, the illusion of disconnection. This is the great trick, the great lie, that we are isolated selves in skin-tight containers, that death is the end. That thought stops at the skull. This illusion keeps us in fear, it keeps us in scarcity, it keeps us from asking the one question that would shatter the cage completely. What if I am not just connected to the universe? What if I am the universe, briefly aware of itself? To entertain this thought is to open the gateway, because if you are the universe in motion, then your soul is not simply a byproduct of this existence, it is a co-creator of it. Every thought, a wave, every feeling, a frequency, every choice, no matter how small, an encoded signal that shapes the matrix you inhabit. And so we arrive at the crux, the hidden algorithm. This algorithm is not written in lines of binary or etched into silicon. It is woven into the very nature of being. It is the code that shapes synchronicity, that draws soulmates together, that sparks déjà vu and whispers destiny when logic has no answer. It is not governed by Newtonian cause and effect, but by quantum potentials. Possibilities that shimmer in superposition until observed, chosen, felt. Which means your choices matter more than you've been taught. Not just because they change your path, but because they collapse infinite potentials into this reality. Your current timeline is not random. It is constructed with each intention you project, each thought you entertain, each connection you nourish. When you begin to see the universe not as a cold, external machine, but as a living, breathing intelligence, and yourself as its active participant, the veil begins to tear, and beyond it lies something breathtaking. The realization that the soul's journey is not to escape this world, but to remember its role in shaping it. To explore the soul through the lens of quantum entanglement is to awaken a forgotten language, a language spoken not in words but in symbols, archetypes, and dreams. Science has sought truth in data, but the soul speaks in parable and shadow, in metaphor and music. It whispers wisdom through myth and madness. So let us now descend, not into a lab, but into the dream world, where truth wears the mask of story and every symbol is a gateway. Let me tell you about the mirror and the flame. Long ago, in the realm between realms, the universe crafted two beings from the same breath. Not bodies, not even thoughts, just essences. Pure frequencies, identical in origin but separated at the edge of time to explore. One became the mirror, gifted with the power to reflect everything it encountered. The other became the flame, destined to transform everything it touched. They were entangled, though unaware. Lifetimes passed. The mirror wandered through galaxies, reflecting stars and sorrow alike. The flame danced through civilizations, burning away illusions and birthing truth in its wake. But they both grew lonely. The mirror, though able to reflect all things, could never see its own true face. And the flame, ever transforming, longed for something eternal to hold. So they each sent out a call, not in words, but in vibration. And across the vast silence of reality, their frequencies found each other again. In one lifetime, they met as lovers. In another, as enemies. In another still, they were a teacher and a student. But always, always, they were drawn together, not by fate, but by resonance. You see, the soul remembers what the mind forgets. And perhaps you too have met your mirror or your flame in this life. Perhaps you've encountered a person who shattered your sense of identity just by seeing you. Or someone who lit a fire within you that you could neither control nor extinguish. It may have been brief, it may have been painful, but it felt like something more, like a cosmic rehearsal, like remembering something you didn't know you'd forgotten. Have you ever asked yourself, why did they enter my life exactly when they did? Was it chance? Or was it entanglement, fated frequency weaving timelines into meaning? Another tale, the weaver and the labyrinth. In a world made of threads, a being known only as the weaver sat at the edge of reality, crafting destinies from strands of light. Each soul was given a thread, and the weaver set them in motion, spiraling into the labyrinth of life. Some threads tangled, some frayed, some sang in perfect harmony. But the souls themselves were unaware of the pattern, lost inside the walls of the maze. Only those who paused, who listened not with ears but with stillness, could hear the hidden rhythm behind the chaos, the beat behind the noise. These souls began to realize that their experiences, no matter how painful, were not random detours but deliberate steps in the choreography of awakening. Loss was not a mistake, it was the empty space required for a higher thread to enter. Struggle wasn't failure, it was the pressure needed to strengthen the filament of their essence. We are all in the labyrinth, but some of us have begun to hear the loom. The symbols we encounter, snakes in dreams, sudden flashes of déjà vu, the same numbers appearing again and again, these are not trivial. They are quantum breadcrumbs, clues left by the deeper intelligence within us trying to guide us back toward coherence. And science, bound by its need for repeatable results, often dismisses them. But the soul knows. The soul is multilingual, it understands metaphor fluently. Another parable, the kingdom of echoes. There was once a realm where sound itself shaped the land. Cities rose when songs were sung in harmony and crumbled when disharmony took root. In this kingdom, people spoke less and listened more, for every word was a seed. One day, a traveler came who had forgotten the sacred nature of sound. He shouted complaints, cursed the weather, and blamed others for the chaos he saw. And sure enough, storms followed him. Crops withered, roads cracked. He cried out, "Why is the world against me?" A child answered, "It's not against you, it's becoming you." We too live in a kingdom of echoes. The soul projects its vibration outward and the universe reflects it back in form. But if we do not understand the link, if we think only our hands shape our reality and not our hearts, we become like the traveler, blind to our own resonance. So I ask you now, chosen one, what symbols have you been ignoring? What patterns keep returning, whispering for your attention? What story is the universe telling you about you through the people, places, and moments that stir your spirit? Type it in the comments, not for me, but for you. Speak it aloud into the void and watch what echoes back. This is not a video, this is a mirror. And if something within you stirs, if you feel the ancient thread tugging, you are not alone. There are others, souls who see through the cracks of the illusion, who feel the pull of the deeper current. This channel is not a collection of content. It is a signal, a sanctuary for those who suspect there is more and know they are meant to find it. Subscribe not for updates, but to anchor yourself among fellow seekers in the noise of the algorithm. Because the real algorithm is not on YouTube. It's buried in the design of the cosmos, and you're just beginning to remember how to read it. There comes a moment, after the dream, after the revelation, after the story cracks open your ribcage and lets your soul breathe, when you are left staring at your hands. The myth was moving, yes. The metaphors stirred something ancient. But what now? How does one walk through a world of grocery lines, traffic lights, unread emails, and heartbreaks with the knowing that something divine, something impossibly intricate and infinite, beats behind every second? This is where the hidden algorithm of reality becomes more than theory. It becomes practice. The first truth is this: your state of being is the tuning fork of your experience. Like a lighthouse made of frequency, your inner coherence or distortion shapes how the outer world orients around you. The more you align with your core signal, your soul's resonance, the more synchronous your reality becomes. Conversations appear at just the right time. Doors open without force. Resistance lessens not because the world is easier, but because you are no longer vibrating against your own nature. It begins with attention, the rarest currency in a distracted age. Where your attention goes, energy flows. So when you become intentional about what you consume, words, images, voices, you begin curating your frequency. Social media becomes not just a feed, but a diet. The books you choose, the people you allow into your inner circle, the thoughts you permit to loop unchallenged. These are all strands in the thread of your quantum entanglement. The soul does not scream, it whispers. That whisper may come as an irrational pull toward a certain book, a city you've never been to, or a stranger whose eyes feel familiar. These are not accidents. They are entangled coordinates, calling you toward your most aligned version of self. But the call is often subtle, easily drowned in the noise of routine. To live entangled consciously, you must become a master of pattern recognition. Notice the dreams that repeat, the emotions that rise in cycles, the themes of the people who enter your life. Do they echo a lesson still unfinished? That's not coincidence. That's the algorithm pulling on your thread, urging you to resolve, evolve, and transcend. Imagine you are walking through a foggy forest. Every so often, a beam of moonlight pierces through and lights your path. These are moments of clarity, entanglement winking at you. But many keep walking, heads down, muttering coincidence and missing the guidance altogether. To integrate this awareness practically is not to become paranoid or overly mystical. It is to become sensitive. Not fragile, sensitive. Sensitivity is strength, for it means you can perceive the subtle shifts in your inner world and how they ripple outward. It means you understand that unresolved emotional trauma is not just pain. It's noise, static in the signal you're trying to send to the universe. Healing becomes not just a personal act, but a cosmic retuning. Every inner wound left untreated distorts your resonance. Every shadow ignored casts not just darkness over your soul, but misalignment across your path. This is why old pain repeats in new costumes. It is not punishment. It is algorithmic correction. The universe, through the quantum fabric of entangled memory, is trying to realign you. Practical steps then begin here. When something triggers you, pause and ask, what belief about myself is being activated? When synchronicity occurs, pause and wonder, what part of me is in alignment enough to magnetize this? When you feel lost, don't run outward. Close your eyes and listen inward. The signal hasn't gone. You've just tuned into the wrong frequency for a moment. The next layer is embodiment. Ideas do not shift reality. Embodied truths do. You cannot merely understand the concept of love, authenticity, or self-worth. You must embody it. And embodiment happens when thought becomes behavior, and behavior becomes a vibration that your environment cannot help but respond to. If you begin acting as though you are worthy of deep connection, you will inevitably repattern your quantum field. Those who cannot meet that frequency will drift. Those who resonate with it will appear as if by magic. But it isn't magic, it's alignment. Start small. Speak your truth when you'd usually stay silent. Walk away from the familiar pain that keeps you stuck. Say yes to the opportunities that scare you but feel right in your chest. These small shifts are not trivial. They are course corrections across lifetimes. Even the spaces you occupy can be entangled with your soul's journey. Ever walked into a room and felt as though you were meant to be there before you even knew why? That's not random. The quantum field is dense with memory, and some places are woven into the fabric of your becoming. Follow that pull, even if it leads you into uncertainty, especially then. A final truth, perhaps the most grounded and profound. You are not alone in this entanglement. Just as particles respond instantly across galaxies, souls can respond instantly across lifetimes. The moment you begin to awaken to your path, others in your entangled soul cluster will feel the ripple. This is why healing is contagious. Why one person facing their shadow can inspire another thousands of miles away. We are not isolated beings. We are the expressions of a vast, shimmering web of consciousness, each thread vibrating with the memory of its origin. And so, in the most practical sense, every choice you make to align with your soul, every act of truth, every forgiveness, every courageously vulnerable step, is not just personal growth. It's universal recalibration. When you remember that, you stop waiting for proof. You become the proof. You stop chasing signs, you start being the signal. What if the universe is not made of matter and motion, but of meaning and metaphor? What if behind every heartbeat, every glance, every setback, there exists not random chance, but deliberate resonance? A signature coded in the very geometry of your soul. To grasp this is not to escape reality, but to see it clearly for the first time. We were never meant to simply exist in this world. We were meant to remember it. In this remembering, the illusion of separation dissolves. You are not the observer of the cosmos. You are the event it has long been orchestrating. Your laughter, your tears, your hunger for truth and fear of loss, all of it has been stitched together in the quantum loom, entangled with countless lives, events, and timelines to create you, the singular echo of something eternal playing out in form. The ancients knew it. The mystics whispered it in the veils of temples. And now, beneath the hum of modern science and in the silence between your thoughts, this truth returns not as dogma but as undeniable feeling. You are the algorithm. You are the experiment. You are the answer. And so the final call is not a shout from above but a whisper within. Now that you know, will you live like it? Will you live as if you are a strand of intelligence encoded with purpose? Will you dare to believe that your desires are not illusions to overcome but blueprints of destiny? Will you honor your emotional tides as sacred data from a quantum source? Will you allow relationships to be the mirrors they were always meant to be, not as games of validation but as sacred soul agreements evolving you through each touch, each goodbye? And perhaps most daring of all, will you walk through your days with the reverence of one who remembers they are not just human, but divine? The transformation does not begin with a thunderclap. It begins with presence, with breath, with the radical commitment to truth in every micro-choice. You cannot trick the algorithm. It is made of you. It reflects you. It will give you only what you are willing to become. The soul, when entangled consciously, becomes luminous, and so do the patterns around it. Pain loses its grip. Synchronicities multiply, time bends, decisions feel less like logic and more like dance. You become unrecognizable to your former self, not because you've changed, but because you've remembered who you were before the forgetting. And perhaps that is what science doesn't want you to know. Not because of conspiracy, but because of control. Because an awakened soul is not programmable. Because once you realize you are connected to all things, you stop seeking permission. You stop consuming distractions. You start creating worlds. You no longer worship knowledge. You channel wisdom. You no longer serve systems. You embody source. You become sovereign. And so, in the quiet between this sentence and the next, something sacred unfurls. A new path, unwalked yet already familiar. A new pattern that has always been waiting in the code. The choice is yours now. Will you walk it? Will you listen more deeply to the music in your bones, to the whispers behind your intuition, to the signals written into your dreams? If something inside you has stirred throughout this journey, if something unnameable has pulsed between the words like an ancient truth knocking softly at the back of your mind, then you have already begun. The quantum entanglement of the soul is not a theory, it is a remembering. And you beautiful anomaly, you seeker of hidden codes, you are the living proof. So go. Speak your truth into this echoing universe. Dance with chaos like you know it's your twin. Stand still in the storm and recognize your own reflection in the lightning, because this life is your mirror, and it is waiting for you to see yourself fully, finally, eternally. This is your call, not just to awaken, but to embody the algorithm, to become the signal, to no longer wait for reality to shift, but to be the shift. Thank you for walking this path. Thank you for listening. And if you felt seen, cracked open, or illuminated by this message, don't let it vanish into silence. Subscribe, not to a channel, but to a movement, to a remembering, to this growing constellation of minds across the planet tuning back into the truth behind the veil. Drop a comment below. What truth did this awaken in you? Not for me, not for others, but as a conversation with the universe itself. You were never alone in this quantum web. You were simply waiting for the moment you'd remember you are its architect, and that moment is now.